Welcome to Contact Has Begun, brought to you by the grace of the World Puja Network, one of the last vestiges of truth concerning benevolent, spiritually, and technologically advanced off-world visitors. Some refer to these visitors as our greater family of man or returning ancient ancestors. I am James Gillen, your host, and our guests also include cutting-edge physicists, authors, teachers, and healers dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth. Let the journey begin. Greetings, this is James Gillen with World Puja. We've got a great show today. We've got Klaus Dona here, and we've got, he's an exhibitor, a curator, and a researcher, and he's come across some artifacts that are just pretty unbelievable, and they're turning up the whole program of the history as we know it and making some very important questions come to light. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Klaus on the show. Klaus, are you with us?
Yes, good evening, James.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
There's your work has been of a great interest to me and the listeners as well. Some of the artifacts that you've been coming across that tie into these ancient civilizations, and they've been kind of turning upside down the standard programs and history that we were taught in college that I never really agreed to anyway. But I've always known history is his story, and it's always written by the ones that won the wars or whatever. So the ones that survived whatever happened. So to get the real story, we have to dig a little deeper. But anyway, can you talk about some of the things that you've come across that are kind of turning upside down the old program, you might say, or the old history books?
Yes, as I did many cultural exhibitions, real culture, historical exhibitions, I was a little bit skeptic against many books written about strange artifacts. And that makes me wondering, and I thought maybe it would be the easiest thing to trying to bring many of those artifacts to Vienna into an exhibition, which I did 2001, and then the scientists would have the chance to check it out if they are real or if they are frauds or new-made pieces. And the more I got into these fields, the more I found out that there is so much hidden still from our history. And since 1997, I'm researching, and nearly every day, I get new informations. Of course, you have to be very careful because some of the pieces might be new done or frauds, but I always personally, first of all, I would like to check the pieces and with the help of some scientists trying to find out if they are really old. And believe me, there are so many things. I just got 2 days ago several photos. I cannot talk yet about them, but if those artifacts are real, and I personally think 100% they are, then this is really a big hit for our so-called history. There must be changed then a lot.
How far back have you taken, let's say, modern man or man with the ability to carve these stone sculptures and things like that? Do you know how far back have you taken this in our history?
This is the biggest problem, James, that stone you cannot age dating. This is the biggest problem. But, for example, if you say the oldest one, this is what the owner was talking about it. The real age of those stones is very hard to figure out. That was Dr. Cabrera in Ica. If you check the internet, there are so many websites talking about all those artifacts are new made by one man, which is definitely impossible. I visited Dr. Cabrera in Ica in Peru 2 times in the year 2000 and 2001. and we checked all the stones, over 12,000. Of course, and this is very sorry to say, he had some new made stones also. He was a very, very excited collector, and he got in several years over 12,000 stones. And after a while, he couldn't get new old ones. Then he really started to give order for making some new ones. But I can say a very good friend of mine, a perfect and very specialist geologist, he stayed 2 weeks with Dr. Cabrera in Ica, and he checked as a geologist the stones. He told me exactly the same. He told me around 80-85% of those stones are real, very, very old, but there are also some new ones. And what you can see on those stones are dinosaurs with human. Then is the big question, how old are the stones? If the real science is correct that the dinosaurs died out in around 65 million years ago, then those stones should be around 65 million years. But there's the question, if there were no dinosaurs even living not that long time ago. So this is a real one of the very, very interesting collections. And as I said, it's a pity that most people think that those stones are fake. But I got information from Spanish researchers. They were there last year, and they found in the desert close to Ica, they found by excavating by themselves several old stones with strange engravings on them.
Yeah, it's kind of like this field here. You could get 100, really good photographs and videos of a UFO, and then have one that you misidentified, and that one will go around the world in the press and discredit you, and they'll totally throw out, the other 100, so.
I always say, if you find a fake $100 note, does that mean that all the dollars are fakes?
Yeah, I've seen that too. They said, oh, that's all computer generated, and I said, well, you see a robin fly by, you can computer generate a robin flying by, but does that again make all robins fake? So it's amazing. I know there's just some people, no matter what you do, no matter how much evidence or proof you give them, they don't want to evolve or accept any new information. They have that cognitive dissonance program going, and that's just where they want to be. They want to stay in their present mindset.
Oh, that's a pity. You are right, because I showed in an interview with Bill Ryan, I showed some artifacts from Colombia. We had them 2001 in Vienna, and the greatest expert on this field checked, first of all, the material. Definitely, it's lyddite, which is a very hard stone, but very easy to break. And he checked then the pieces. He said, definitely, we are not able to do the same pieces with our high-tech today. And then, of course, in the Internet, there were some persons writing against that I'm a liar, then that lyddite is mud and very not so hard and so on. But what I can say very frankly, the material is lyddite. It is very hard, nearly hard like granite. And the expert said we are not able to do the same things in our days. So that means who did those things? And the problem is you cannot age dating the stone. So you never find out when it was carved. But what I ask then, what civilization had such a technology which we do not have yet? And there are so many pieces which are showing up the same big question. How was that civilization? Where did they live? Did they come from another star? I wouldn't say that clear because I have no guarantee for that. But pieces we cannot do. Somebody must have made them.
Yeah, I've always been of the theory that the Earth was colonized a long time ago and went through several major cataclysms, and everybody had to start over as primitive. So that would make sense that you would find some incredible artifacts, very ancient ones, and then you'd go back to bows and arrows, and then they would evolve again to a level where they would be, carving stone and making some beautiful vessels and things like that, and which would be the only things that would survive basically over time.
You are exactly. Stone is the only material which doesn't change the surface, even after thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. And why many of those pieces are found deep in the earth. So that's also what I think, that we had several times in the past cataclysm, and that everything started again from new. What would happen if we would have a big catastrophe and most of the people are wiped out, and the next many generations, they would just have to fight for their life to get some food, and there wouldn't be any more technology and nothing. So maybe they would take their knowledge, trying to encarve or to paint in some caves, their knowledge, their ancient knowledge, or what they got on information from their ancestors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it only makes sense that would be the way things would go. And I've also felt, too, is that once you move into an extremely advanced civilization, that they would work probably with stone and things of that nature, and work with things that are sustainable and more organic, and get away from any kind of toxic materials whatsoever. So they would be more in the flow with nature and working with nature versus trying to conquer it or work against it.
That's right. And the question why, when I get several times questions from scientists, why do you think that those old stones are telling us some stories about the past? Why didn't they use other material? Then I must laugh, because I said, what would you do if you put all your informations on a DVD and we have a big cataclysm? Do you really think that somebody would find any information on a DVD after hundreds or thousands of years?
Oh, yeah, just one.
They knew what they did. They knew what they did.
One solar flare would probably erase it, and it'd be over with. And who would think that maybe the technology wouldn't, if they got to that point again where they were making computers and DVD players, would it be the same as the old one, and could they even play it, which doesn't make sense at all. So it does make sense that you would find just pretty much everything in stone. And I've thought about that here, making some really neat stone carvings and information on it and things like that, and leaving it so, 3,000 or 4,000 years later, they could dig this up and find out who we were.
Yes, but still, it would be difficult, and this is also our problem